name is Jeanne Yang. I am 56 years old. I sometimes forget if I'm 56 or 55. Born in 1968 in Los Angeles, California. From what I understand, my mother came here with $20. My father was already here, going to university. My mother was working 3 jobs. She was working, I think from what I understand, 17 hours a day. And the last thing they were expecting was having a second child because my older brother was already, he was born in Korea. And so they were living in a converted garage. And from what I understand from my parents, they didn't have a crib, so they had to use a drawer that they filled with blankets. The first time I think that my parents actually felt more comfortable was after several moves. We were able to move to a little suburb called Monterey Park. As a typical Korean American, I did exactly what my parents wanted me to do. So I went to go work at a law firm because I thought I was going to go into law, only because I wanted to go into politics. After being incredibly disillusioned by politics and then being disillusioned working in a law firm because I realized it was what my parents wanted me to do, I decided to pursue a totally different path. I worked in various industries in fashion, and kind of came upon the world of Hollywood through a very kind of circuitous route. I worked for a magazine and had the opportunity to see this whole world of styling. And I thought, I get to shop, unlimited budgets, and dress really attractive looking people. And I thought, this is something I really enjoy doing. At the time, I ended up working in music videos because music videos was like the biggest business in the early 90s. I'd like to attribute this to Nunchi. We had the hero costume, which was the wardrobe for our main female in this music video, stolen. They basically said, look, it's $150,000 a day that we're losing if we don't find this clothing. The assistant director gathered everybody, and I said, just let me talk, because I know how to talk to these kids. And it was a whole bunch of extras. And I said, okay, you guys, we are going to not be able to shoot this music video. Everybody's going to get to go home. If there's any way somebody can look around their bags, I bet by accident somebody must have put this piece of clothing in their bag because it was all black and we had you guys all sharing the costume, area. And from the corner of my eye, had seen a young girl, and I didn't want to shame them, but I went by group, and then eventually went up to the young girl who I knew had taken it and was able to get her without shaming her into volunteering that by accident she had taken it. The next day when we were on set, everybody was buzzing about it. And I was in a passenger van with 14 people, including the director, who I did not think was very happy because he was a narcissist and found it really disconcerting to his set that a young Asian girl had rescued his video shoot. So he proceeded to say to his AD, I really don't think I've had this much fun since I was killing gooks in Vietnam. I was the only Asian person in the car and the only young woman, because the woman who I was assisting on this big, huge, massive commercial video had felt like I was responsible enough to take the job on my own. And I will never forget, it was definitely a sort of like, fuck you, you think you're big, you're not. And I will never forget that moment, because I thought, I'll never work with you again. But guess what? You are not putting me down. You are not pushing me down, because I just don't care. And I will never forget that, because I used it as kind of a fuel to my fire whenever I felt as though anybody was going to push me down. My hun came out, and rather than feeling like I was going to be embarrassed or feel bad, I was like, no, you're not going to make me feel bad. I rescued your fucking video. So screw you. And I remember just thinking, I will never, ever work with somebody like that again. One of the other things that I have a great deal of pride in, and specifically being a Korean American in Hollywood, is that, I worked with huge directors and huge actors. The joke is that I've worked with four Supermen, 5 or 6 Batmen, 3 Spider-Men, Iron Man, Neo, Aquaman, and the thing that I find the most fascinating thing is that when we look at the films that have won Oscars, you'd think it would be a Spanish film, or like, one of the amazing, Alejandro, Alfonso, Guillermo, one of these big directors, or the Italian cinema, or the French Nouveau. No, the first non-English speaking film to win an Oscar was a Korean film. The highest streamed program ever in the history of the world is a Korean show. I have, from a period of feeling embarrassment about being Korean, to now having such an incredible sense of pride and feeling like, if anything, I, feel like there's never been a better time. And it's not even a trend. It's not something that is because of business. It's because people actually finding enjoyment and being entertained. It's wonderful to be a Korean American in Hollywood right now. I've spent almost 27 years as a stylist and have an amazing roster. About 3 or 4 years ago, right before the pandemic, I had helped an artist release an album, do the Super Bowl, had 17 people for the Oscars, and the entire award season. Had worked 5 or 4 months in a row without a single day off, and was leapfrogging 4 to 5 different assistants, and realized this pace was unsustainable. At around the same time, a small film had just won the Palme d'Or, and that was Parasite. And Vice Chairman Mickey Lee invited me to dinner, and I remember thinking, this is crazy. I'm sitting at the Jeffrey Katzenberg table at the Palm, and why does this woman want to meet with me? She had said, well, I want to talk to you about the teams, because we have this film, and it's won the Palme d'Or, and we want it to go all the way across the finish line. She knew that I'd worked with Alfonso Cuarón the year before on Roma, and had said, I want to know who we should work with to get the proper PR. And I thought, call Katzenberg, call Spielberg, call any of these people. Why me? And she said, well, honestly, you don't realize who you are and the rooms you've been in, and how much of all these years, that knowledge that you've gathered, and that you've never used it for yourself. And she kind of knighted me in a weird way, and also awoke it within me this sort of acknowledgement, which I didn't have the time at the time to think about, because I was so busy working, and said, you have so much wisdom that has never been used for you or for our people. And it also kind of engaged within me a sort of civil responsibility that our stories need to be told. I couldn't continue in the path that I was going physiologically, because it was exhausting. But also, one of the biggest things for me was that she said, what is going to be your legacy? What will be your legacy? And I realized I don't think it needs to be just a pink suit on Jason Momoa, or, working with Keanu and Christian Bale and Robert Downey Jr. I want something more. And so that's why, in as much as it's been great and incredibly lucrative and incredibly fun to travel around the world and work with these amazing stars, I'd like something more. I've spoken to my children many times about the fact that we are a tiny country, and yet we wield such a great deal of power, that people are choosing our language, people are choosing to sing our songs, people are choosing to watch our shows. There is nothing more powerful than when people choose to go towards something as opposed to being forced into it. As a Korean American, I am very proud to be on this other side and have people in Hollywood want to reach out, because they're saying, wow, I don't know how many mood boards I've received with old boy references, or seeing a storyboard with pictures of what is considered the best action sequences from a Korean film director that is being used in America. When I grew up, it was almost all Western influences that were influencing Hollywood and fashion and the way we looked. And I never saw anybody who looked like us. But now to know that we wield this power in a way that is much more sophisticated than people being forced, having it forced upon them, it gives me such an incredible sense of pride. And I'm very happy to know that, to be on this wave. My name is Jeanne Yang, and this is my Korean American story.